we are going to break down our chicken into marketable parts. Fabricating our chicken is going to begin with drying off the chicken, a clean dry chicken and a clean dry board so that the chicken does not slip around on the board and become a hazard. Wiping the back, wiping the board down. Okay, if there's any excess liquid in the cavity, you can wipe that down as well. First thing I'm going to do to my chicken is I am going to remove any excess fat that may be in the way coming out of the cavity at the very bottom. That gets put on the side. I'm putting all of my parts after they're done in a pan over some ice so that I can keep my chicken as serve safe as possible. So at this point now, I'm going to take my chicken and I'm going to first remove the wishbone. Lifting up on the skin here above the neck, I'm looking for the wishbone with my fingers. I feel it right in the middle of this cavity here above the breast muscle. I take my knife, I'm going to make two slits on both sides, 1 and 2 right above the wishbone itself. Just about a 1/4 inch in. I'm going to take my fingers, digging into the breast muscle slightly and pull that wishbone out and putting that wishbone off to the side. Now, I want to take my chicken and I'm going to French the breasts. So I'm going to pick up the wingtip. I'm going to take my boning knife and I'm going to cut right below the joint on the wingtip. Just below the joint, all the way around, cutting through any sinew, any connected tissue, straight into the bone. Then I scrape downward. Okay? Scrape downward, scrape upward. And once I have that, then I'm going to look to see which direction this joint moves in, and I'm going to pull the wing off in the opposite direction. Just like that, exposing a nice clean bone on my wing. Same on the other side. Straight into the bone, right below the joint, all the way around. Scraping downward, scraping upward, and then pop the joint. And that should pop right out and give you a nice clean joint. And now my breasts are Frenched. Next, I'm going to now separate the legs from the carcass, or the legs from the body, by cutting through the skin. Index finger and thumb, I'm going to separate the leg and the breast, leaving more skin on the breast. The tip of my knife is going to cut just through the skin. And I'm going to cut through the skin all the way to the cavity, all the way to the back. Turning my chicken, cut just through the skin all the way to the back of the chicken. I have not cut through any meat yet, only through the skin. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, retaining as much skin on the breast as possible. Straight through, down to the cavity, and then to the back of the chicken. Once that's done, thumbs. I'm going to take my thumbs, insert them to where in between the thigh and the breast muscle, and I'm going to pop the chicken's joints out, 1 and 2. Now I've popped these 2 joints out. My chicken now is more stable. Turn the chicken around. Use my knife, and I'm going to go straight down the center of the chicken, right in between the 2 breasts, cutting through the skin. And your knife should naturally cut down one side of the keel bone. And I've cut onto this side. I'm going to put my knife down, and I've only gone down the keel bone about a 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to peel away. I'm going to peel away the meat all the way down to the ribs. Once I get there, I'm going to use my non-dominant hand. I'm going to hold on to the breast muscle, and I'm going to pull away as I cut, starting at the tip of the breast. Just feathering this knife downward, going around the rib, around the rib cage, all the way up to the top of the breast, finding that joint putting my knife right in between the joint and wiggling it to go straight down the joint, and now I have an airline breast. I'm going to clean up my airline breast, stretching that skin out and trimming any excess fat and excess skin that I have going down the airline breast to give myself a clean teardrop shaped airline breast. Any flappy skin, remove that, and now my airline breast is nice and clean with the tenderloin still attached to the breast. That I'm going to place into my pan with the ice, and I've put the excess fat in one place on my pan. Turning my chicken over, looking for the keel bone, which is this shark fin shaped bone right here in the middle and between the two breasts. I'm going to take my knife and go down the keel bone, just the tip of my knife, feathering it downward, and then once again peeling the muscle away with my fingers. Once I peel that away, using my knife, I'm going to feather the tip of my knife down the sides of the rib cage all the way up to the top of the breast, finding that joint, wiggling my knife through, cutting through the joint, and now I have my second airline breast, which I'm going to also trim any excess fat and excess skin away, giving myself a nice clean teardrop shaped airline breast. That's going to go on the other side in my pan. Now I'm left with the legs and the carcass, flipping my carcass over, looking for the oyster muscles. These two oyster muscles here want to stay attached to the thigh, but I do want to cut through my skin, so I'm going to cut through my skin going this way and down. So I have a T-shaped cut just through the skin. I take my finger and I'm going to dig the oyster muscle out from this bowl-shaped bone that's behind it, this bone right here. This is my oyster muscle. I dig it out to keep it intact. Now I take my knife, go behind the joint, go behind the joint here, behind the oyster, and I cut at an angle to retain as much meat off of the back of the chicken as possible, trimming off any excess fat here, excess fat here. And now I want to separate the thigh and the leg. So I'm going to find the line here between the thigh and the leg, take my knife, and cut right through that joint. Right through that joint. And now I have my thigh and my leg with the skin still attached, bone in. Same thing on this side. Take my finger, dig out the oyster muscle. Once I dig that oyster muscle out, take my knife behind the oyster, behind the joint, cutting at an angle to retain as much meat as possible. And I'm left with my carcass here, which I'm going to put up to the side. Separate your thigh and your leg. Okay? Leaving a nice clean leg and a nice clean thigh with the skin still attached. And my carcass, which does not have much meat left on it at all. And that is breaking down a chicken into its marketable parts.